scripts are just awful when the writer tells you everything.
Did I say that?
I think I'm taking it from
a friend of mine said that.
Okay.
Who, she's not a screenwriter, she's not a producer. She has been in the business a long time as a unit publicist, and she has exquisite taste in films. And I remember asking her, because I was asked that for, I think, a topic of an article, and I said, what would you say is one of the things that has made you want to get involved with a script, and what do you think makes a script really good? And what came out of her mouth is, what makes scripts awful is when characters tell you everything. So examples, if a husband and a wife, let's say a wife saw her husband having lunch with another woman that she didn't know about, and he comes home from work, and he's like, hi honey, how's your day? And she were to say, what she'll probably say in real life is like, nothing, with that kind of, I mean, Matthew Weiner's a master of like, subtext, and I recommend looking at just about any episode of Mad Men, but much less interesting. So, or she might say, that the husband comes in and says, what did you do today? And I was in a similar situation once and I did not say, I saw you with another woman having lunch today. I wanted him to I wanted to maybe catch him in a lie. I said, or actually what did you do today? And he said, nothing special. Really? Did you have lunch somewhere interesting? What are you talking about? And maybe one of the things that I love is that if you really play along with that, you can also play with the audience in terms of them thinking, oh yeah, he was having an affair. Then we find out that it was an interior decorator, and he was surprising his wife he just bought a little vacation home. And he was making sure, or he just was renting in Malibu a place, and he wanted to make sure all the stuff was special for their anniversary. And then what can happen is if she keeps testing him, and she starts bringing up old stuff about how he pisses her off, that scene could end with him not telling her what the surprise was, and the couple deciding, you never trust me, you know what, I was going to do something nice for you, and screw you. I want a divorce. I'm just spinning here, and I'm not saying that that's, the greatest scene, but that's an example of when you play with subtext versus characters saying everything that they're thinking. Another example, if you take Streetcar Named Desire with Blanche and Stanley and Stella, and if you had Blanche saying, well, I really have been working as a prostitute, and I'm depressed and I have nowhere else to live. Game over, not very interesting. So if you think about it in those terms, it's, and it's really reflecting how people are in real life. People don't always say exactly what they're thinking and feeling.
Oh, not at all, yeah. But that's what makes it so interesting too, because like you said, going along on the ride,
right,
wondering, will there be a raised eyebrow that will reveal something?
Right.
Or
exactly, versus because then it just has this flat tone, and it really doesn't replicate you in life. And I feel like that's one of the things that I was saying earlier when you would ask what I love about movies, is that we can vicariously put ourselves in the other character's situation, and we can say, I've been in a situation like that. I didn't want to confront my husband if he'd been with another woman, and so on and so forth. So,
or that if you can tell sometimes if there's gossip or somebody said something about you, so they come in, how are you?
Oh, exactly. That, yes.
and then, they want something from that statement.
And then we can immerse ourselves in the feeling of the person who is suspecting that maybe they were talking about her, but they're not coming out and saying it. So I think that's such a good point that you bring up, is that it really engages us so much more. And because that's a comment that I've said a lot, you want to be engaged. I mean, good writing, good script, the scripts that command attention is with an extraordinary capacity to engage your reader. And that's usually through really smart dialogue, like what you were talking about.
You talked about too, scripts that don't propel the character forward. Mm-hmm. So can we have maybe some examples of ones that would and then ones that don't, or just some themes?
Right. Well, gosh, okay. Breaking Bad is such a great example of an escalation of situations, and so I would say that's the character. Every step that he takes, there's a consequence, and it leads to another. And another, and then the character might try and get himself out of it, but it's kind of like the notion of Macbeth. Once you create or do something bad, it has its own momentum. It's hard to say without really doing specifics, but basically every scene, you want to feel that you're advancing the story. You're advancing the plot. Even if a character has a setback, there's still one of the, I guess, best ways to think about it is that there's the core spine of the story where a character, primary character, or you may have an ensemble, but that each has a goal, that there's a primary objective that the character is trying to obtain, and the obstacles that get in the way that prevent them from that, and how they, even if it's a step back, but then they're still trying to overcome that obstacle. There are, I mean, most movies, successful movies, follow that formula. I hate to say formula because I don't like to think being formulaic. And an example really where stories are not propelled forward is when I think the writer loses focus, that the focus is too diffuse. And one of the common reasons for that would be when there are too many characters. When a writer is introducing so many characters that rather than get to know one or a few really well, we're getting glimpses of all these different characters, but none of them, because they don't have time to develop them particularly well. And so we don't have a core sense of what a character's primary focus or a group of characters' primary focus and goal is, what are the obstacles that get in their way. So I think anytime there's a really diffuse focus, and then scripts they wind up just being very dispersed, and rather than having a through line.